Typical English summer weather.
If you look over there, you can see the remains of a steamship. You see her engine sticking out of the water.
Oh yes, my goodness.
Even as recently as I can remember, all of this area was a hive of activity with ships being built. But there is still life. You can see that ship being repaired on the slipway.
Yeah.
But it's nothing like it was. We're now coming into the main commercial part of the port. We're leaving behind us the area where they used to build the drifters and trawlers in the first 50 years of the century.
Lowestoft wasn't much more than a village of 3,000 inhabitants until the middle of the 19th century. It took another sort of steam power to turn it into a thriving port, with the means to transport freshly landed fish to the markets in London.
There was a rail station here then before?
Oh yeah, all this port was developed by the railway company. The port was founded just before the age of the railways, and then Sir Morton Peter, the great railway builder, bought what was really a decrepit harbour and a not very prosperous railway to Norwich, and he turned the whole thing into a going concern. All of this was built by his railways, and the port was run by the Great Eastern Railway and then the LNER. It was only split off from the railways within the past 40 years or so. This is the bridge that's just open. This is the thing that holds, that both binds Lowestoft together and continually splits it. It's rather nice to be going through it in a boat instead of being held up in a car.
The fish docks are the heart of Lowestoft, so naturally they're the busiest place in Maritime Week.
Well, there's life in the old dock yet, especially today.
This is the annual fish fair, when the local fish traders like to put on a bit of a show.
Lovely fresh salmon fillet, look at that. £2 for £5.
The market is usually closed to the public. It's where the professionals do their deals at the early morning auctions.
Does the life of a fisherman get early starts and late finishes?
Basically, I mean, we all work around the fish. So some days, every day is different. We can start at 5 o'clock in the morning, generally 6 o'clock. Work 12 or 15 hours a day. Other days we might be finished at 6 if the weather's bad and there's no fish.
On your display, you've got them all over the world, haven't you?
Yes, yes. I mean, we've got, we fly things in like parrotfish from the Caribbean, red snapper from Saudi Arabia, fish from everywhere really.
And a shark.
Oh yeah, we got shark from Cornwall. We were scouting for that for the last week, and they came up with one literally yesterday.
So what is the #1 favourite fish?
It's always been cod. Lowestoft is a place port, always been built up on the place, supplies most of the place from around the country. Other ports supply different species. Scotland, for instance, will supply haddocks. So the haddock you eat in your fish and chip shop probably came from Scotland originally.
Lovely skate wings, last of skate wings, skin both sides, all lovely and fresh, lovely Lowestoft skate.
Not really, about a mile.
Isn't it a Chinese junk?
Yes, but it lives in the Alton Broad Museum.
Oh, right.
Yeah, come aboard.
Come aboard, all right.
Come
How do I
aboard.
get aboard?
Right, well, pull it in here and then you can get aboard. How's that?
Oh, lovely. So, Neil, what is a Chinese junk doing in the middle of Lowestoft Harbour?
Well, it's part of the collection of the International Sailing Craft Association. This is one of 289 boats we've got in the museum, hidden in Alton Broad. Well, this is a Chinese fishing schooner. We've got it down in the harbour here because of the fish fair.
Right, forward gear.
3 generations of Chinese would live on this.
All at one time?
All at one time, and some of them would never go ashore. They would actually live on the boat all their lives.
The smacks are racing up towards Yarmouth and back. In their heyday, there were so many boats that they had to rush back to harbour and land their catch before the docks were full. And the idea of an annual smack race is nothing new.
Smack racing was a regular thing off Lowestoft until about 100 years ago, and each year boats gathered to race and take part of a regatta. It died out around about 1895, 96, something like that, and was revived again 2 years ago in 1996. Developed a very large herring fishing industry. So after the decline of the sailing trawlers and sailing drifters, they then developed the steam drifters, and the boats used to follow the shoals around the country. So they'd work their way down from Scotland, bringing with them the people who needed to prepare the fish. And at that time, the herring that were landed were put into barrels, and they were all shipped off to Eastern Bloc countries.
So they were salted out?
Yes, yes, layers of salt, layers of herring.
Well, the smacks will be out there for hours yet. But I've got an appointment back on dry land to find out what happens to the herring once it's been caught, landed and sold. And I'm starting to feel a bit peckish. This is the oldest smokehouse in Lowestoft for traditional oak smoked fish.
Hello, what are you up to here then?
Well, I'm doing the bloaters ready for tonight's smoke.
Yeah?
So there'll be a fresh bloaters again tomorrow morning.
Right.
And Mum's doing the kippers over there.
Right, well, can I help in any way?
You most certainly can, if we stop and find you an overall.
Oh, right then.
Yeah.
The Buckingham family have been smoking fish here for 38 years.
So this is a bloater.
Yeah.
And what are you doing here?
Well, we're putting them on the speeds here.
Speed?
Ready, yeah, on the speed, yeah. Ready for going into the smokehouse to be smoked.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And this is my...
That's a speed there.
It's really light. I thought it would be
yeah.
metal.
No, they're wooden speeds.
So what do you do? It's rather disgusting.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What you have to do is hold the back. You can see the back line down there. Hold the back like that and go through the gill like that.
Right.
So what you do is just
Ugh. Right.
That's
okay.
it. Put them on there like that,
Lovely.
and you got approximately about 17 of them on there.
Do I?
Yeah,
Oh,
and then we
hang on.
space them all out after we've got them all on.
Now, what's the difference between a bloater and a kipper?
The difference is a bloater is smoked as a whole fish. You know, it's going to hang in the house like that,
Yeah.
and that's going to be smoked. The smoke's going to go round it and in it. Where a kipper, we open up, and
But it's the same fish, actually.
oh yeah, that's all a herring. Yeah,
But they taste different when they're...
they are totally different tastes. Yeah, different flavours. Yeah.
Bloaters used to be very popular in Victorian times, didn't
Oh,
they?
yeah,
You read
yeah.
Dickens, and they're always talking about bloater tea and bloater
That's
paste
right.
and so forth.
That's because you're going back in the times when there was a plentiful of herring coming in. Everybody had herring at least once or twice a day. A lot of the poor people lived on them. You know, and I can remember going back over the years when we had like kippers for breakfast and bloaters for breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
But because then people used to have that.
Now it's a treat. having
Yeah,
a kipper
that's
for
right.
breakfast. How many of these do you do?
Well, we
These
do them daily, and we'll do up to about 4 or 5 stone of these a day. And as I say, then we'll do the kippers as well. We'll do loads of them, probably about 12 or 15 stone of kippers a day. They'll drip all day, so there's no more water left on them. And then tonight we'll light up the fire, and then that'll smoke all night until tomorrow. Then we get them all down, and then they're ready for sale then.
Right, William, where do you put these then?
Well, we're going to put these into here,
Yeah?
along this row here.
Yeah.
They'll get nicely smoked, if I can take your one.
It's a marvellous sight.
Oh, yes.
There go my bloaters.
That's
Goodbye,
it.
bloaters.
Put them up there.
I suppose in the old days this was full to the ceiling.
Full to the very top, yeah. And we'd have had 2 smokers here then, one for during the day and one for night time. Because what you used to do is you'd had someone come in at night time to empty this down, so you take off the bottom half and then lift all the rest down and then relight another fire. So then that'd be smoking all day and night virtually. Now these are one of the oldest things we actually do,
Yeah?
and we call them the red herring.
Is this where the phrase red herring comes
This is
from?
where the phrase red herring come from.
This is what they used to drag to put the hounds off their scent when hunting, was that right?
Oh yeah, but they are very good to eat.
Are they?
They are very good to eat.
Now, why have they got the red colour then?
Because what we have to do with these, we actually salt them for approximately a week, and then we smoke them for roughly 10 weeks until they go a nice firm round the gills, which you can feel at the top here.
Yeah.
And they'll go nice and firm there,
Yeah.
and then we know they're ready then for selling. How's that?
Lunch. But first I need to work up an appetite with the peer-to-peer swimming race. It really is time for lunch. The fish fair's doing good business still. Apparently 7,000 people visited it this year. But I'm off to the town centre to meet someone who is preaching to the unconverted about the delights of the good old herring.
The silver darling.
That's another name for a herring.
Absolutely. The fish that Lowestoft and Great Yarmouth were built on, basically. It was the money that came from these little beauties that put in the foundations for both towns to grow. And it all came from the sea, from the fish.
Christine Bince is a local chef, one of the founders of the fish fair, and needless to say, a true Lowestoft fish fanatic.
So we take the herring, and I'm just going to slip it into this bowl of water here and find a knife just so we can take the scales off. Because they're not very nice if you get them in your mouth. So just with the back of a knife, run it down the fish.
The back of a knife, not the sharp part.
No, not the sharp part, just the back of the knife, and the scales will just literally come off. There's not too many on this one because I've been handling it quite a bit, so they've come off. Okay, so you just do that. Give it a good rinse, and then the next thing you need to do is gut it. And you just simply take a sharp knife and you go in there just till you get to the bone. Then you turn it over and you go between the two fins there and the back fin there, and you just simply cut like that. Then all in one motion, you go like that, get hold of that, and you just literally pull.
Good heavens.
And you have one cleaned herring. Just rinse it under the tap, perfectly clean.
Good heavens.
Ready to go. And then the way that the fishermen used to cook them, very easy, they used to snotch them.
Snotch.
Snotch. Snotched herring.
So tell me about Lowestoft and the fishing community then, Christine.
Well, they always say that if you scratch the skin of any family in Lowestoft, you will find a fisherman, and that's quite true. I mean, everybody's links to the sea here are very, very strong. Even young people who now perhaps work away, they will have somebody in their family that at some time or other has actually been connected with the sea. And they've had a hard time, the fishing industry, the last few years with quotas and everything else. You know, it really has been quite desperate. But having this, the Maritime Week and the Fish Fair, hopefully, you know, puts a bit of heart back into the community. And that's what we need. We are very cavalier with our fish in this country. I mean, we're an island. We're surrounded by water, and we have some of the best fish in the world. And prime fish, which has landed at all our ports. And where does it go? Abroad.
Is it really?
And they all queue up on the continent, all waiting to buy our fish, paying all this wonderful money for it. But we have this funny thing in this country that fish is somehow second class to meat. It has changed since the beef scare.
Isn't it lovely?
Very nice.
No, I like that, honestly.
Very good. I'm going to try some. It's yummy.
It. Come on.
You're going to try some? Good.
No, don't put it down there.
There we go.
Very nice.
Thank you.
It's more than that, it's lovely.
I couldn't possibly say goodbye to Lowestoft without checking out those 289 boats from around the world that Neil promised me. And there they were, tucked away behind Oulton Broad. A really amazing collection of fully restored and, I'm told, virtually watertight vessels.
So where did they all come from, Neil?
Virtually every country in the world we've got them from. This one comes from the Maldives Islands.
Yeah, and this?
And this is from Bangladesh. It's probably one of the oldest boats we've got in the museum.
Is it? So where's this one from, Neil?
This is from Indonesia. It's jarring, built with no metal in it at all. It's just pegged together.
Beautifully painted.
Well, yeah, the fishermen, when they've finished fishing, they've got nothing else to do, so they just decorate up the boats. Lovely.
And what's that one over there?
We've got 3 boats there from South India. One of them is a raft, one of them is a dugout, tree dugout, and the other one is a planked boat that's sewn together. They all came off the same beach in India. We were used at the same time, and there's about 10,000 years difference in the development from the log raft to the plank boat.
And they're still in use today,
They're
are
still
they?
in use today, yeah.
So, do any of these go in the water now?
Yes, the best way to preserve wooden boats is keep them in salt water. It does them the world of good. We've got some in the water. Do you like to have a go in them?
All right then.
Okay.
The end of an exhausting day and the climax of Maritime Week. The Smacks have come home to Lowestoft.
Well, the Smacks are back, and I've got a job to do.
The Excelsior Trophy, which was in fact presented by the Excelsior Trust, was won by Excelsior.
Oh, hurrah! Congratulations.